Hey there, sonny boy. I'm here to talk to you about this thing called virtual reality. I think it's pretty cool.
We're talking about virtual reality today, and my belief that virtual reality is wasted on the young, that it is best for people who are a little bit more, let's say, mature rather than wrinkly. Let's say mature, okay? I mean, I'm talking people who are 35, 40, 50, 60, even 70 years old. That's who virtual reality is really made for. But I'm ready for you to disagree with me. I'm Jolly Julian. I'm not old. I'm still young at heart, but I love VR. Let's talk why it's best for the old people. All joking aside, folks, I want to have a serious discussion today about virtual reality and why I firmly believe that it is best for people who have a few more years behind them. I have a little experience in this area. I have a lot of experience in this area because I'm an older person. I've got a lot of experience with virtual reality over the last 6 years or so, and am ready to discuss this subject. I want to encourage each and every one of you to comment on this video and let me know if you agree or disagree. If you're a younger person utilizing virtual reality and you're like, hey, Julian, I disagree with everything you're saying here and here's why. Or if you're somebody who's maybe a little bit older using VR and you think, yeah, I can see the point. I agree. I'm in the same boat you're in. So why do I feel that it is best by people who are a little bit older? Well, first of all, there are safety concerns. I'm not going to go into the science of it here, but there are a lot of scientific studies that are saying that, kids under the age of 7, 8 years old probably should not have a VR headset on because it can mess a little bit with their perception and the way that their eyes are adjusting and continuing to grow and form. So, check into stuff like that first and foremost. But I wanted to get that out of the way because that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking safety, okay? That's a whole separate concern. But if you have young children, I would look into that before strapping a VR headset to their face. The second reason that I believe virtual reality is best used by people of a little bit more mature constitution is the context that we have in life. This is probably the main reason that I would say this, but you'll want to watch the rest of them to see if you agree or disagree with them as well. The more years and experiences that we've accumulated, the more we draw on those when we are experiencing any form of entertainment. It impacts the way we experience and contextualize that entertainment. Virtual reality is no different. In fact, I would say it's even a little bit more intense because it is encompassing all of our auditory and visual senses, that everything is to scale, that we feel like we're moving in the space. The more context of experiences we have, i.e. the more years we've been on this planet, the more we can identify what those things are in virtual reality and connect with them in a personal way. For example, if you're playing something like Assassin's Creed Nexus and you're swinging around the city and looking around, you're going to internalize what you know about being in a city, whether it's that actual city or not. Whether you've been in that city at that time or not, probably not old enough for that. If you're old enough for that, congratulations, you've been around a long time. But you have the context of what it's been like walking down streets, looking at buildings and so forth, in a way that somebody who's only been on the planet for 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 years doesn't quite have. I mean, the key word in virtual reality is reality. Most of the time, what we're doing in virtual reality is trying to simulate or mimic reality to the best of our ability. Even when we're doing something like a fantasy game or a space game or something like that takes place on a whole other world, oftentimes the creators are building into that a sense of connection, a sense of context to the real world to make us connect more with that experience no matter what world it's been created in. So the more context we have through our years of experience on this planet, the more we're going to connect with those experiences right away. Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Let's move on. The third thing is nostalgia. All right, now this is very close to the one I just mentioned as well to me. This is another major one. Nostalgia is basically our fond, usually, recollections of things from the past. You know what it's like. You saw a movie 20, 30 years ago, and it's one of your favorite movies. It's maybe a movie you grew up on as a kid, and you show it to somebody who's a kid today, and they look at it and go, I don't get it. That's stupid. I don't get it. That wasn't good. Right? But to us, we have this nostalgia inside of us of remembering what it was like seeing that when we were a kid, and we remember it with such reverence. I just watched the other day Back to the Future again, a movie I loved watching when I was a teenager, and watching it again now, I love it every bit as much as I did then. But I watched it with somebody who was a bit younger, and when it was done, they said, yeah, it was good, but I don't think it's as great as you think it is. The same thing happens with games and experiences as well. So with that, obviously, the older we are, the more nostalgia we have built up, the more our virtual reality experiences can tap into that in a very visceral way, being so connected with us through our visual and auditory senses. Agree with me or disagree on this one? You know what to do. Let me know below. Let's move on to number 4. The fourth reason I believe virtual reality is really best on people who are a little bit older is the physicality of it. Now, admittedly, physicality can be great for younger people as well, but I think we can also all agree that they've got a lot of built-in energy anyway. Most of the time, they probably don't necessarily need an excuse to be even more physical. Although an argument could be made that in this day and age of phones and tablets and computers and even virtual reality in a seated position, right? Kids may need a little bit more of an inspiration to get up and move around, but certainly people who are a little bit older can always use a little bit more physicality in their lives, right? Well, virtual reality is a great way to get that. Because unlike flat screen gaming or computer gaming or mobile gaming, you're not doing so much of this with controllers or your screens. You're actually standing sometimes, and you're using your arms with your controllers or even hand tracking to do things physically in that experience. And that's always a good thing as we get a little bit older. Anything that gets us off our butts and doing something, that's always a plus. And virtual reality is built for that. It's built to be a more physical, one-to-one with the real world. When we're using our hands as our characters, we're using our hands with the controllers depending on what experiences you're doing. Some great examples of this are experiences like Synth Riders or Beat Saber, both of which are wonderful physical rhythm games that actually really get you moving, and some people have said they've lost a good amount of weight playing experiences in games like that. Or there's Thrill of the Fight, or Creed, 2 boxing games. That'll get you moving, and boy oh boy do I have some experience in that. I have sweat a lot doing things like Thrill of the Fight in virtual reality. Things that would never be the same if you were playing with a controller on a flat screen. So, let's get physical in virtual reality. Number 5, and this list is in no particular order, otherwise I'd probably have this a little bit higher on the list as well, and that is the power of empathy. Empathy is our ability to understand and even share in the feelings of others. And I think as we grow older, our ability to empathize with others becomes stronger. Now, obviously, this depends on our upbringing. It depends on the context of our experiences, even as we're getting older. But obviously, the more time that we have on the planet, the more experiences we're probably going to have interacting with other people, people who are different in many ways from us individually. And therefore, we're going to understand people are different and maybe have more openness to empathy. Again, not everyone functions the same way. I get that. But the longer we've been around, the more potential there is for empathy. And VR is a wonderful empathy machine. It's an incredible way for us to connect with people, cultures, experiences. The power of that virtual reality headset is it puts you into the position sometimes of these other people, other characters, having these other experiences where you are in it first person, rather than feeling like you're watching it through a window or on a movie screen. Here you're living it instead. And people who are a little bit older have that ability, I think, or at least have the context to be able to empathize with and go out and experience these things better than people who are very young and still focusing on trying to figure out who they are. Now, if you're a youngin', I can't believe I just used the word youngin'. If you're a youngin' and you disagree with me for any reason, let me know in the comments below. And I will say, a lot of younger people these days are very empathetic and very understanding of other people and wanting to be open to other experiences. So I'm not condemning anyone who's a little younger. I'm just making an argument here. I'd love to hear if you agree or disagree below. Number 6. Let's admit, as we get older, maybe getting into your 50s, 60s, 70s, our brains don't necessarily fire on all cylinders quite as well as they did when we were in our teens or in our 20s, right? Well, virtual reality can be utilized very well for brain teasers, for puzzle solving. Again, because of the nature of virtual reality, bringing us into the experience and fully encompassing our senses in a way that regular gaming on a computer screen can't do, it allows us to, I think, connect a little bit better to an experience and therefore glean more from it from a brain perspective. And again, I think that would be lost a little bit on people who are younger. It's not to say that they can't enjoy that experience, but they maybe don't need that as much and maybe wouldn't even try those kind of experiences as often because they might be looking for something a little more high octane, a little more high energy, rather than sitting down and trying to solve puzzles. Now, any of you who are younger that like solving those puzzles, I love it. Great. And keep that up because it really is great virtual brain food. But for anyone who's a little bit older and wants to keep that brain sharp, virtual reality is a great way to do it. Another thing about virtual reality that is wonderful for people of all ages, but especially people who are a little bit older, is staying in touch with family and friends. Virtual reality is an incredible social experience. Anyone who's ever done it and really gone into any sort of a social experience in VR knows what I'm talking about, where it feels like you're in the same space with another person, even if their avatar doesn't look anything like them, even if it's a little cartoonish, whatever it is. That full encompassing 3-dimension scale, everything makes it feel like you're in the same space with another human being. And this is great for sharing experiences with people you don't live near, parents that you've lost touch with, brothers and sisters that live across the country and have families of their own, friends that you lost touch with after leaving college and starting families of your own. Get into experiences like VR chat or even Rec Room, which tends to skew a little younger, but that can work. Horizon Worlds, or even something like Walkabout Mini Golf, which I've talked a lot about on this channel because I absolutely love it. Walkabout Mini Golf is one of my favorite social experiences because I can get in there with anyone and we're just playing miniature golf together in virtual reality and talking about whatever we want to talk about, catching up on whatever we want to catch up on. It's a great way to stay in touch with people that you care about. Lastly, those of us who are over, say, 35 years old or so, understand that we're living in a very, shall we say, overstimulated world right now. We remember what it was like when movies had a little bit of a slower pace and took their time to get going and really established a world and a tone before it jumped into the action. Yes, movies like that are still made today, but they're much more rare. Usually now things have to get right in and get right to the point. Television programs are the same way, and so are games a lot of the time. So in things like virtual reality, when we're in there again, experiencing things as if we were there ourselves, taking the time to walk around in the space that's been created by these incredible storytellers and look at the nuance of the different things in the room rather than just running from, okay, what do I have to do next in order to beat the game? What's the next thing I need to do? What's the next step, boss? Right? We can take the time to smell the flowers. And I think some of that desire and passion for doing that comes a little bit more with age. So when you're in something like Resident Evil, right? A Resident Evil game, being terrified out of your wits in virtual reality, take some time to look around and enjoy these incredible environments, as terrifying as they might be, and just marvel in what is around you. Take the time to enjoy those experiences. No Man's Sky, Skyrim, these are some of the other experiences where you can just go around and just enjoy the environment. Again, people of all ages can do this. Take time to smell those virtual flowers, and I promise you they'll smell almost as good as the ones in the real world. And they won't make you sneeze. So that's it. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of more reasons why you could argue for or against my hypothesis today, but, I'm going to bring this video to a close here. We'll continue this conversation in the comments below. Let me know. My goal is to respond to every comment that comes through. I'm going to be reading these things. I want to keep this conversation going. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. Not for me. Don't do it for me. I want you to do it if you feel that you enjoyed this video, that you got value out of it, and you'd like to see more of what's happening. Also, a little thing's going to pop up at the end of this that'll show you another video that I've done recently. If you'd like to take a look at that and see, do you enjoy that one more than you enjoyed this one? Less? Or about the same? But anyway, with that, I look forward to continuing this conversation. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. This is Jolly Julian. I am out of here. See ya.